Oops. All right. I understand why we got put after Duncan and Erica now, because it dovetails quite nicely. So, hi, I'm Shiv. Happy to answer questions if there somehow is time at the end of this, but I'm not particularly confident. So, welcome to the suburb game and other ways to make an adventure out of nothing. I, as a person, have spent many, many, many years of my life thus far trying to find the most satisfying ways to complete my wanderlust with exactly no money. The real title of this talk is The Broke Adventurer Manifesto. So, I'm going to go through a couple of different adventures and stories that I have experienced, along with a couple ideas that I have about what it means to be adventuring while broke, and I guess on a slightly more fundamental level, what it means to go adventuring. And maybe, if we're lucky, there'll be a little lesson at the end that can be relevant to our practice. Wouldn't that be crazy? We're at a conference. So, number one, you need to make your own myth. Let me tell you about something called the suburb game. When I was in year 10, my friends and I decided randomly to go to Rippinley Gardens. We really enjoyed just walking around. It had this beautiful lake, and we're like, man, lakes rule. Let's find some other places with lakes. So we went to Mooney Ponds. It's okay. They had a discontinued brand of Solo at specifically the Mooney Ponds reject shop at the time, so that was great. We were really addicted to that. So 6 years later, in 2023, we stood on Sandringham Beach, having visited 333 suburbs in Melbourne, all of them. It was something that we never considered possible until suddenly it was imminent. And it really took on a life of its own. It was a huge way that we stayed connected with each other, and we really fell in love with this idea of going on an adventure to a place that really doesn't claim to offer anything other than, I guess, the presence of people, maybe a cafe, maybe a kebab shop, things like that. And I really think that maybe the most important part of this entire process was just that we gave it a name. It was the suburb game. And that's what I mean by making your own myth. One of the more important things about this kind of adventuring is you've really got to narrativize it in a way that makes it exciting. And a big part of that for me is always coming up with a silly little name. I think everything should have a name. I'm a pan-nominativist or something. Beautiful. We had spreadsheets for everything because while the core cast of Suburb Game changed over time, fundamentally, it was me and two spreadsheet guys. So they made a lot of spreadsheets. There's another spreadsheet. There's a second spreadsheet that they made with this we called it Conquest. I don't really know what the deal was. The politics of this are a little strange. I'm not responsible for it, but we decided to try and come up with this sort of poetic little abstract quote representing our experiences there. A lot of these, I don't even remember what they referred to. But I think that's kind of exactly the point, and it's really cute in that way. Suburb Game is responsible for one of my ongoing hobbies, which is collecting photos of weird doors. And speaking of weird doors, have you seen the bloody bathrooms here? They're haunting. I took a photo just before the end of the keynote. It was beautiful. I love weird doors, and you might notice my definition of door is a little bit loose. We got some passageways, some thresholds here, very haunting. Oh, phone's decided to turn itself off. Beautiful. But yeah, giving your wacky adventure a name, or giving your adventure group a name, is, I think, a huge part of the process. It's an act of myth-making and storytelling. It makes these things last with you. It makes it an arc of your life, an era of your life. And the spreadsheets and the photos and the videos, what have you, they're a big part of that. I was a big documenter of this particular kind of game, and I continue to be. Here's a couple more photos I like, just because I feel like it. John Lennon Street. Angus is the biggest Beatles fan I know. We found a kangaroo hedge in, I believe that was Seaford. It's supposed to be a joey, but I can't really unsee a very well-endowed kangaroo. And this is my favorite photo I've ever taken on Suburb Game. Somehow I remember that this was in Clyde. Wow. Ooh, what does this mean? Oh, so deep. Really makes you think. I have so many photos of plush toys and dolls just on the ground covered in mud. There's so many. Anyway, number 2, you should have an excuse to slow down. So, I went on a road trip with a bunch of friends in the same group a long time ago, and we never really stopped places. We knew we wanted to, but what's the difference between one town and the next and the next and the next? What reason do we have to slow down? After that point, 1 year afterwards, a couple of friends and I from that group, we decided to do another road trip, but we had a gimmick. Thus comes on a roll sausage goal. The premise of this trip was that we were going to drive along the eastern coast of Victoria. We were going to stop every night at a different campsite for free, spend $0 on accommodation, and stop in every single town that we passed and try the sausage roll, the vanilla slice, and the banana milkshake, on the premise that, as I'm sure a lot of you Victorians know, and I'm actually interested if this is true for all of Australia, I wouldn't be surprised, every regional town claims to have been given some goddamn award for sausage rolls, vanilla slices, pies, and things like that. The banana milkshake, not so much, but Danielle really liked them and we wanted him to be happy because he's a good boy. So, I started posting these little reviews to my Instagram story as we went. We had a rating out of 5 stars and a 2-word review. Yeah, and there were lots. We did so many. One of my favorites is these 2. Oscar continues to be the funniest guy I know. And it's really quite sad that I am not making games with him now, considering we got into this industry, or I got into it because of him. If I've ever told anyone the story of a friend being very, very stubborn, he's the stubborn friend. Industrial tang, what a phrase. And yeah, there might be something a little bit special about that second sausage roll, I'm not sure. But yeah, it took on a life of its own. People were, even though I was only posting for myself, people were following this along and like giving feedback, and which ultimately like came to a head when Wooriallic Bakery, which I have encouraged some people in the audience to visit on one particular occasion, came out on top as a perfect 5 out of 5 in every category. This was the last place we stopped at, and we almost didn't because we didn't know this town had a bakery. But of course it did, right? It was just hidden. It's a little bit hidden because you've got to earn it. And we started getting accusations of faking the ratings to make the story conclude in a way that was satisfying. I promise you they're just that good. You should go there. They're like a little bit east out of Melbourne, past Lilydale. Yeah, here's a couple more photos I like just because I love taking photos. So, next up. You should plan as little as you can possibly live with. 2 years ago, we did Suburb Game Presents Desire Lines. This was a trip where we walked from South Frankston to Portsea. That's the entire Mornington Peninsula. On foot, right? Completely. That was the entire premise. We didn't plan where we were going. We didn't plan what we were going to do. We didn't plan where we were sleeping. We knew where we would probably sleep based on how long we felt was comfortable to walk on any given day. But we figured it out like 4 or so hours in advance on any given day, just hoping that someone would have a caravan park that had a little bit of room in it. And so we went through we got a map here just to clarify. It's a lot of walking. And yeah, we took the ferry at the end over Queenscliff and then went back around on the west coast. So yeah, we started in South Franger. Beautiful place to walk down, by the way. It feels a little bit like kind of the vaguely Scandinavian thing they've got going on in Death Stranding. Then Mount Eliza, then we walked along the Nepean Highway for way too long. This was a winery that had an obelisk. I don't know what that was about. I don't recommend walking along the Nepean Highway for 3.5 hours, but we did it. Mornington, Safety Beach, very creepy place, Dramana, Soda, Arthur's Seat, Rosebud, Rye, Sorrento, Portsea, on the ferry to Queenscliff, and then back again. So I have a little extra story I want to tell about this. I lied. We didn't walk the whole way. We took a little bit of a bus. We took a bus between Mornington and Safety Beach. I forget why, but we did it. And I nearly got into a bus crash. There was a bus that we had to take that we didn't get on because I woke up that morning and realized I did not pack a belt, but I did pack 3 pairs of pants that needed them. And we had at our disposal a sort of homewares shopping area. No Kmart, no clothes, no what have you. And so we were frantically running around every place we could looking for a belt. Bloody Rebel Sport didn't have a belt. We're like, okay, screw this shit. But I had an idea. You know that middle section in Aldi where there's like a bunch of random stuff? Surely not. Surely not. There was one belt. There was one belt, and the time that it took for me to purchase that belt, as opposed to going, no belts, let's go hop on the bus, was the time it took for us to miss the one we were planning on taking. And that one was in a crash. The only reason no one was injured was because there was no one on it other than the driver. If anyone was towards the middle or back of the bus, they would have been injured. We saw the news as we were on the second bus. And as it turns out, without even thinking about the fact that I was planning on telling the story, I put on the lucky belt this morning. This is my lucky belt. It's for tradies, but I honestly think it's the most fashionable one that I own. So there you go. Very thankful. So next up, tug on the thread of fate. So this is a solo adventure. One random day when I was working on my uni capstone, I was just not really having it. I couldn't figure out how to get anything done on that given day. So I thought, I'm gonna do something in honor of our beloved Christian McRae. And I'm gonna walk several suburbs over and I'm going to drink flavored milk on the beach. That's a thing that he loves. So I got some clothes on, I put on some sunglasses, and I walked all the way to Williamstown from concrete jungle where dreams are made of, Altona North. And on the way, I bumped into my primary school best friend just on the street. We don't live near each other. He just happened to be there. I walked into a lolly factory and I got a whole bucket of limes. Not lemons, limes, which is a big deal. Who's growing limes? I love them. And I have a almost religious relationship with this idea of serendipity. I trust that as long as I invite them into my life, that they will come. And that means creating excuses for things to just kind of happen, which for me means walking a long distance and having no idea about what's going to happen between here and there. So yeah, I trust that basically nothing will be as straightforward as it looks on paper. The whimsy is going to find me. I think that's something I bring to even my time in the community. It's a big reason why I try to do my best to be at anything, even if it feels like it's not for me, or I can understand what I can get from it just based on the pitch, because what actually matters is what happens when I'm there. And what happens when I'm there has a whole confluence of factors. It's really beautiful. And drinking milk on a windy beach on your own, especially one as kind of hoity-toity as Williamstown Beach, is really, it's something. I recommend it. So, finally, ooh, there's the milk. Being present is fun and rewarding, and I want to say that it's an activity in and of itself. So, on all the adventures that I've been on, from Suburb Game to On a Roll to Desire Lines to the time I went to Dookie because it's called Dookie. That's the first thing I did after the first lockdown ended, is I got in a car with 2 people and we went to Dookie. We were skulking around the Melbourne Uni campus trying not to get seen because we didn't want anyone to ask why we were there. They were supposed to have a big sign that said Dookie where each letter was its own big piece of plastic. We never found it, but we got that good photo. And also my recent sort of discovery of a love of urban exploration. Simply being somewhere, particularly somewhere that's brand new to you, is kind of inherently interesting. Paying attention to what's around you, noticing the details, riffing, making jokes, making little games, making in-jokes. There are so many things that I could just like list off that were recurring suburb game jokes and like ideas. We have this idea that every suburb is a specific kind of citrus. They always grow one kind of citrus. There's an orange suburb, there's a lemon suburb and whatever. And every suburb has exactly one house that is just full of cacti and you can see them from outside. It's one house, it's always one. But there is the cactus house, so we're always on the lookout for the cactus house. Everywhere is interesting and everywhere is cool. And anywhere is cool. I firmly believe that. So, guess what? I'm gonna link this back to artistic practice. Oh my God. Bells Beach, which is a game that I worked on, we were at Parallels a couple of years ago, is extremely directly a product of having gone on that sausage roll vanilla slice trip. It's inspired by, effectively a product of my experience with adventures in this particular adventure. In fact, part of the reason why I planned it in the first place was that I wanted to immerse myself in as much shit happening as possible before the uni semester started so that I could just be full of stuff to kind of vomit out and turn into art. So yeah, it taught me that like, and echoing Laura's talk from yesterday, that there's so much in my life and so much in even this little slice of the world that is like really interesting and special and worth channeling into my work. Even though Victoria has like 4 types of town, generously, they're all a little bit special, right? They've all got something. So, interesting art is the product of an interesting life. This is only one of many ways to have one, but it brings me closer to the world around me and it's cheap as hell. So I recommend that you get out there, gorgeous. Thank you. I assume we don't have any time. I assume we don't have any time for questions. Yeah, all good. Thank you.